What is up, guys? Welcome to a special Wednesday episode of the Nest Podcast live here on Facebook, YouTube, and the Twitter. We had to come on here tonight because, of course, last night wrapped up Game 6 of the World Series, and we had a lot to cover from that. And Zach hit me up earlier and was like, dude, we have to go on live tonight because the people want to know our thoughts about this. So, Zach, we're here. What do you got to say?
We are here. I think by Monday, people will kind of be forgetting about the World Series and moving on to Sunday's football games. But there is a lot to cover here with this last game of the World Series. And I want to start with the MVP. Obviously, the Dodgers did win, and we'll get into some of that here. But Corey Seager got the MVP. And throughout the entire World Series, he batted .400. He got home runs in games 2 and 4, 4 doubles, a stolen base, and he drove in 5 RBIs, and he had himself scored 7 times. Hell of a resume there in the World Series.
Yeah, the only player that had a better series was from the Rays, Randy Arozarena. But of course, they're not going to give the MVP to a loser. So
right, and Seager also did win the MVP of the NLCS. So a little back-to-back personal accolades for him is pretty cool. So yeah, we can get into get into the conclusion there of the World Series. For the majority of the game, it was locked up, and obviously Blake Snell was on fire. He was striking guys out. It was his game for the most part until it wasn't. And the big, question is, did Kevin Cash pull him too early?
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
At the time, Blake Snell, he got pulled at 5 1/3 innings. He had 9 strikeouts, and he was pitching a 2-hitter. Dude was rolling, and he got into a little bit of trouble. Kevin Cash, I guess the pucker factor was real because he thought that he had to bring in some of those arms. He had to bring in some of those dominant guys from his bullpen. But guess what? The guys that were due up next were 0 for 6 against Blake Snell with 6 strikeouts. Snell had owned them throughout the entire night. Of course, Mookie Betts was up next, promptly got a double, runners on first and third, and then it just went downhill from there. So, yeah. I mean, all the guys that are in the comments are saying, yeah, duh, it was a bad move. Hindsight, of course, is 2020, but Blake Snell was the 2018 Cy Young Award winner. Dude knows how to pitch, and when he's on, he's hard to beat. And he was one of the best pitchers in the world last night, and he got pulled way too soon.
Yeah, absolutely. I do agree. The Rays, from what I've heard today throughout the radio and stuff like that, is that they obviously are a analytics-based team. And in their minds, they did not want to let Snell face the top of the lineup for a third time. Obviously being Mookie Betts, one of the big names in that lineup. He had struck out Mookie. So I don't think, twice. I don't think Mookie was a concern of Blake Snell's. It might have been a concern of Kevin Cash's, but I think Blake Snell probably could have handled him. Like you said, he was dealing. He was not in any sort of danger. Sure, he let a guy get a single, but that wasn't anything that he could have taken care of. Granted, this is kind of Monday morning quarterbacking. If Blake Snell would have been left out there and Mookie would have hit a home run off of him, people would have said, oh my God, I can't believe you let him face the top of the lineup for a third time. Nonetheless, I think in the World Series, in a must-win game, how do you not trust your Cy Young winner?
No, and we've kind of made a name of ourselves by being Monday morning quarterbacks. That's kind of what we do around here, is we come on after the fact and criticize other people's decisions. But we're not alone in this. Twitter blew up immediately. Even before the runs were scored by the Dodgers and the game was completely lost for the Rays, Twitter blew up. Guys from the NFL, other MLB players actors, everybody was chiming in like, I can't believe Kevin Cash pulled this guy. He's been dealing. I saw Patrick Mahomes on Twitter talking about it. I saw Noah Syndergaard talking about it, saying, how do we pull the manager? It's saying like, this guy needs to get replaced now. It was insane. But you know what? It is what it is. We do have to tip our cap and say congratulations to the Dodgers. They finally spent enough money to win a World Series. I mean, played well enough to win a World Series, and that's good for them. They got that 33-year-old monkey off their shoulders. So it is what it is. I guess Dave Roberts will get to keep his job for one more year.
Yeah, I guess so. It was funny because a lot of people were congratulating Kenley Jansen and Clayton Kershaw on finally getting that monkey off their back and winning a World Series. And just the thought that I had was, man, I wish they would have been able to contribute a little bit more, because Clayton Kershaw did fine. He wasn't lights out. He's supposed to be the best pitcher of this generation. I think his best days are behind him, and he did not have an amazing showing this World Series. He did fine. He didn't absolutely Clayton Kershaw it like he always does. Kenley Jansen, on the other hand, has not been good at all. He was not good this postseason. The only times that he was able to close it out and get the save when they were up by 8 or 9 or whatever it was, he was never handed the ball in a dire situation. One guy from their bullpen that has absolutely made a name for himself is Urias, and he was just out there dealing. He really did a hell of a time pitching. It was very good to see. And I think they're going to probably give him some sort of extension to keep him. He seems like one of the pieces that they're going to need to hold on to.
Yeah. We talked about it with Brad on Monday night that Gratterall is another guy that's going to be able to step into at least that, 8th inning setup role or a closer role for the Dodgers. So to your point, I don't think Jansen's going to be back next year. I think we've seen pretty much the last of him in a Dodgers uniform.
Yeah, absolutely. They're gonna have to move some pieces. They have Mookie on the hook now for a long time. I believe Kershaw still has a couple years, so they have a lot of money tied up, and they're going to have to make some moves. Jock Peterson's going to be a free agent, so I would expect to see him in a different uniform too.
Yeah, he was talked about earlier on, either in the offseason or in the early beginnings of this season, in trade deals. Remember back whenever they first acquired Mookie Betts, and then they had a trade in principle, I believe it was to the Padres, that included Jock Peterson, and then that trade fell through, and then he ended up being carried on the roster. I think you're right. I think that Jock Peterson may be on his way out.
Yeah, he was packaged in some sort of deal that was supposed to go to the Twins, I think.
Was it the Twins?
I think that was the deal. It was a deal that fell through, obviously, between the Red Sox, Twins, and Dodgers. And the Red Sox were supposed to get Gratterall and all that. It was that big deal. And Jock Peterson was packaged in somehow, and it didn't go through. And I think he's on their chopping block for sure.
I was thinking that was a separate deal around the same time as the Mookie trade. I was thinking that it was something else that it fell through because the first trade with Mookie fell through. But whatever the case was.
Right. Yeah. But nonetheless, I think Jock is going to find a good home. He's a great player. So I think that the Dodgers don't need a 3-headed monster in the outfield. They've got Bellinger and they've got Mookie now. So they're ready to move on and kind of cut some salary off of their year.
Boy, do they spend a lot.
God, do they have a lot of money. And of course, the other big thing to come out of that World Series was that Justin Turner was pulled in the 7th or 8th, something like that.
Yeah, I believe it was the 8th inning. Yeah, you're right, somewhere in there.
But no one really knew why, and they eventually came out and said that he had tested positive for COVID. So they pulled him and told him to isolate or whatever. Well, that didn't last very long because
he isolated for all of like 15 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, as soon as they won and as soon as they started celebrating, he came back out, and he's been shown to be taking pictures with Dave Roberts without a mask, and he just went on like nothing really happened. And this was a god awful look for all of MLB, not just the Dodgers and not just Justin Turner, but on the heels, not even minutes after the biggest stage that MLB has, for this to come out is terrible. And this was handled absolutely poorly on all sides. MLB should have stepped in and said, Justin, you can't be here. You need to leave. Dave Roberts or someone on that management team needed to step in and say, hey, I get it. You want to celebrate this win, but we have to keep everyone's safety in mind. And on the fault of Justin Turner, he should have known better than to let his emotions get the best of him. I get it. You know, these guys have been playing for all this time, and this is what they play for. But if you give this disease to someone and it affects them greatly, it is not worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm pretty sure MLB is launching an investigation into the whole thing about how he was even allowed to play anyway. But as Brad's saying here, Manfred wasn't wearing a mask in the post-game celebration time either. So if the commissioner of the league is not going to wear a mask, then, you know, who's going to enforce the rules?
Yep. Yeah, and like Brad said here, I wouldn't be surprised if there was a suspension or a fine. There's going to be something. Obviously, they can't suspend him. Well, they can suspend it for whatever they want, but the season is over. So he's going to essentially be let go of the COVID responsibilities for now. But I would expect some sort of fine or a suspension at the beginning of next year to happen, because this was bad. This was a bad break in protocol.
Now, my question is, they've been testing regularly. How long has he possibly had the coronavirus? How long did the Dodgers potentially know that he had it before it was found out? I highly doubt that they were letting these guys go out and play with pending test results, and then only to get the results at 11 o'clock at night to come back and be like, oh, well, you can't play anymore. It all seems a little bit fishy to me.
Yeah. If that is the case and you're letting players play with a potential positive test that we don't know is coming or not, how is that anywhere near safe? If you're going to put players out onto the field, to me, that means that everyone's tested negative, everyone's good to go. There is no one that's at risk. Yeah, either someone screwed up and let him out there and didn't give the news when they were supposed to, or this whole thing has just been poorly handled.
I'm seeing right now that the Dodgers knew in the second inning that he had tested positive. So how was he allowed to go out there for an additional 5 to 6 more innings to be around other players and stuff like that? It's completely mismanaged. And you know what? You know, we tipped our cap to the Dodgers for winning, but for things like this, it's almost makes you want to say, I wish they could be stripped of that title. You know,
Yeah,
that would be one way to just really give them the big FU once and for all and just be like, no, you guys cheated to win it. You know, we've got yet another World Series that has a huge asterisk beside of it.
right. And I think a lot of people had an asterisk on this World Series anyway, because this was a short season. You know, people are going to view this year in sports as a separate year from everywhere else because everything was so different. And now the stigma is going to be the Dodgers let a player who tested positive continue to play until the 8th inning, pulled him, and then he went on to come out and celebrate after the fact. And people are going to soon forget that they won, and people are going to remember the bad marks that happened.
Yeah, just like the 2017 Astros, you know, yeah, they won the World Series, but everybody now remembers it as, oh, that was the year they cheated to win the World Series. And it makes it an illegitimate championship. You know, them flying the banner at their Minute Maid Park is just kind of like a slap in the face to purist baseball fans that are like, they didn't deserve that.
Yep. I completely agree.
It is what it is. But moving on, you know, normally I do come on Wednesday nights and give a little bit of an NFL fantasy football update. So with that in mind, it's time for a 5-minute fantasy. All right, guys, week 8 is upon us, and we still have injuries that have been piling up. Most of you probably have some sort of injury on your fantasy football lineup. Most notably, we've had running backs get hurt, and that's hurt a lot of guys. I know in our league, we've had Aaron Jones go down, and it cost one of our guys a big L because they didn't really have that solid person to put in. Chris Carson going down in the middle of the Seahawks Cardinals game, that could lead to, some other, chances down the road. And also Kenyon Drake got injured in that game as well. So a lot of running backs that have gotten hurt. Of course, most notably this season, we lost Christian McCaffrey for several weeks. He should be back soon. And Saquon Barkley out for the season with his torn ACL. So running backs have been a hot commodity on the waiver wire. And once again, they are this week as well. I mentioned Chris Carson going down. That's a guy that's going to be tough to fill that kind of productivity. But Carlos Hyde looks to be the guy that's going to be able to stand in for him in Seattle. That's an offense that can move the ball. Hyde's been a veteran for several years now, and he's pretty durable. So that's a guy that I would pick up if you need to replace any of your injured running backs. He's available in about 90% of the ESPN leagues right now. So pick him up. The biggest waiver wire darling of the year comes from Edmonds down in Arizona. Most people didn't have him on their roster last week. This week, he's been grabbed up by a lot of people, but he may still be available in your league. Looks like he's going to get the bulk of the carries there in Arizona for the foreseeable future because Kenyon Drake might be out for a couple of weeks now.
Just a side note on that, if you do end up picking up Edmonds, Arizona's on a bye week this week, so won't help you this week specifically.
Now, he's definitely one of those guys that you want to grab and stash because after the bye week, he's going to be a starter. Last week, I came on early Sunday morning to give startums and situms, and I told you guys about Aaron Jones being injured. Well, there's a chance that he may not be back this week as well. So Jamal Williams is still looking good as a fantasy starter. Of course, you want to pay attention to the injury reports going into the weekend, but Jamal Williams posted 21 points last week because he came in, had a huge game off the bench, and that Packers offense is going to look to continue to roll this week. Quarterbacks are another area where we've been preaching to get a good second quarterback because you never know what's going to happen to your starter. You never know what's going to really take place. I was rolling with Dak early in the season and was having great success. But then when Dak went down, I was like, well, crap. My backup was Kirk Cousins. He's so unreliable. So I ended up completely shifting gears and picking up Justin Herbert. Fortunately, Herbert's already had his bye week, so I don't really have to worry about, a mismanaged bye week situation. But a lot of guys out there that have had injuries at the quarterback spot, now they're dealing with a bye week with their guy that they picked up, or maybe their new quarterback and backup quarterback have the same bye. So some of the guys that are out there that I would recommend taking a look at, Baker Mayfield has looked pretty good throwing the ball. I know he just lost Odell, but that didn't seem to slow them down at all against the Bengals. So if Baker's out there for you, he's not a bad one to pick up as a good, solid backup quarterback to come in and plug in for when, your starter has a bye week. Another guy that I would consider picking up, and I feel bad because I told a lot of people to drop him earlier in the season, is Teddy Bridgewater. He's bounced back after his pretty lackluster start to be able to come to his own with the Carolina Panthers offense. And with Christian McCaffrey coming back soon, Bridgewater is going to be a fantasy winner very, very soon. So what do you think about that, Zach?
It sounds good to me. It looks like Josh Jacobs on the Raiders is questionable. I don't know what's going to come of that. But he's probably high on a lot of people's lists. So if you have him in your lineup, definitely keep track of that. And like I said, Arizona players are out this week. So if you've got, say, Christian Kirk, Kenyon Drake, Kyler Murray, those kind of guys, you got to have something to plug in there. So, I think we'll probably do a stardom situm later on in the week and give any updates that we hear from now till then.
Absolutely. And we do like to come on here and give routine updates to get people up to date on all the latest happenings of what's going on. And we will be doing some special Mandalorian episodes in the very near future, because that show is set to start streaming once again on Disney Plus on Friday. But we got some unfortunate news about an update of a video game that you've been following very closely, and that's Cyberpunk 77. So what's the latest going on there, Zach?
Yeah, unfortunately, Cyberpunk has been delayed yet again. That was originally supposed to come out April, then it got delayed to September, and then it got delayed to November, and now it's again delayed to December 10th. And they came out and posted a statement saying that it has been difficult for them to basically test and publish 9 different versions of the game, because they have to do current gen, they have to do next gen consoles, and they have to do PC. They also have to do Google Stadia, which is Google's terrible console that no one likes. And I was looking on Reddit, and
Dumpster fire.
someone who is an alleged game developer speculates that the Google Stadia is really where the hangup is, and Google most likely did a deal with CD Projekt Red to make sure that the game released on their platform along with all the others, and that system is probably way different than all the others. So they didn't realize that it's taking a lot more effort to make their game for this weird console, and that's probably this last delay, because the game, for as much as we know, was ready and it got gold status, which I guess that means it's done in gamer development terms. And all of a sudden this came out. So hopefully this is the last one. They're really rubbing people the wrong way. There's been so much hype over this game. It was first talked about 8 years ago, and we've just all been kind of waiting around, and the hype has built up, every time it gets close to the release date. And yet again, we have to be pushed back on that. But to tide us over, we do have some games coming out in November, that being a new Call of Duty, of course, Black Ops Cold War, and Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Those are probably the 2 biggest ones that people will be enjoying. So that'll just basically have to tide us over.
I know Call of Duty is going to deliver another good game, but the Cold War as the premise of your war video game just seems kind of weird, because of course the Cold War wasn't an actual war where you went and shot up different groups or whatever. So it would be funny in a way if they made this game as a way that you've got to be stealthy and try to get different types of espionage going and all that stuff, and you don't actually ever even fire a shot during the entire game.
Yeah.
That would definitely be something different for the Call of Duty fans and their entire franchise, but it is what it is.
Yeah, that would be a pretty interesting take. From what I've seen from trailers and stuff, the campaign is going to be operatives on both sides, and I'm sure you're going to just do normal Call of Duty things.
Of course you will.
This is supposed to be a direct sequel to the first Black Ops, and people are big fans of that genre. So it'll be interesting to have another good campaign, because Modern Warfare had a great campaign in my opinion. And we'll also be getting Zombies back, which has a huge following. And yeah, most people have had a chance to play with the multiplayer that's going to be with Cold War because of the betas and stuff. So I don't think there's any, real mystery there, but I think it'll be a good game. It'll be Call of Duty. Some are good, some are not so great. And this year seems to be a fairly good year.
Yeah, I mean, but if you've played one, you've kind of played them all, really. They're kind of cookie cut at this point. They used to be very unique and very good whenever they were, rolling one out every couple of years or whatever. But now that they try to pump one out every single year, it's like, okay, you take the same engine and just put a little bit different colors on things and call it a new game.
Yep.
It's kind of like in Grandma's Boy when they talk about rendering the different zombies or whatever it was in JP's game. Oh, just render it a different color and people won't know that it's the same exact thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's all we're doing is putting a new skin on a Call of Duty game.
Pretty much.
But
Yeah.
Valhalla looks like it'll be pretty good, pretty interesting. I think in that game they're kind of going with the newer style of Assassin's Creed games instead of the old school like where you have the one hit kill with the hidden blade and all that stuff. Like it's not going to be like your Ezio running around in ancient I guess Syria or wherever he was. So it's a little bit different, but you know the Assassin's Creed series has been pretty good for what it's worth. I've always enjoyed it. I like the little bit of history element that they throw in there, and you know Vikings are pretty awesome anyway. So hopefully you get to ransack some villages and do some cool stuff like that.
Yeah.
They're with the Black Flag when they were the pirates and it was your first chance to really be out on the open seas and stuff. That was a pretty cool feature that they added in there. So I enjoy the boat play in Assassin's Creed games. So I'll be interested to see how they make it work with the Viking ships and stuff.
Yeah, I'm sure that's going to be very prevalent. I know it was a pretty big part of Odyssey, which was the Spartan themed Assassin's Creed. I think the Viking era is a great setback or what's the word, drop back for an Assassin's Creed game. I expect that to be very fun. So yeah, Assassin's Creed games are a little cookie cutter because it's the same thing over and over, but they do make a good single player game. Like you said, the history behind it is fun, and this setting should be a really good one.
Yeah, I think the word you were looking for was backdrop. But yeah, it like Cody says here, the time period for Valhalla comes after the second game as far as chronologically speaking goes. So we're going a little bit further back and past than a lot of the more recent ones have, which is always cool. That what is it called? That the Amicus or whatever that he gets in.
Mhm.
That's a pretty awesome machine, and I wish we had that in real life. That'd be fun.
Yeah, the first few games, their storyline was pretty cool. Desmond was related to all of those characters and stuff. That was a cool little kind of side story that was really very interesting. Apart from just being the main character, you had this side story of Desmond and how he traversed that whole weird company and stuff like that. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, I enjoyed that too. It gave you something else to kind of sink your teeth into the game and not just constantly be stuck in like ancient Rome or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. What else did we want to cover on here tonight?
I think that's it for me. Yeah, I haven't heard anything else other than that big news there.
Yeah, once again, we just wanted to come on and kind of give the updates about the World Series and all that stuff because, like Zach said, most people will have already forgotten that the World Series happened by next Monday. So we wanted to come and touch base on that and kind of give our thoughts and opinions on it. But man, countdown to spring training starts now.
Yep. Yeah, postseason kicks off now. I think there's going to be a lot of moves to be made. Lots of free agents: George Springer, Jock Peterson. There's probably too many for me to name off the top of my head, but there's going to be a lot of moving pieces. A lot of teams that are going to try to pick something up that can potentially help them win. And at the same time, there's a lot of teams who did not make money this year and are probably going to try to offload some people. So it's going to be a wild postseason, I think.
Yeah, and we'll have Brad come back on periodically throughout the offseason and give updates on, all the trades and all the free agent acquisitions that take place. And it'll be good to keep people in the loop for baseball during the offseason so that when spring training comes around, we're ready to go. We know where everybody's going to be and what everybody's doing. So I look forward to it. Hopefully we can have fans in the stands next season. That was something that was definitely lacking this year. I think a lot of people just weren't really interested in baseball this season because of the fact that They couldn't go to the game even if they tried. So that kind of sucked. But I think next season, get all this coronavirus stuff over with by then, hopefully, and get some fans back in the seats, get to go to a game or two. That would be great for us, I know.
Yeah.
And it would just be a whole new ball game, pun intended.
Yep.
And we'll see you guys back here for some fantasy football updates as the weekend progresses, and we'll of course be back here Monday night for a brand new episode of the Nest Podcast. Please share this out with your friends. Tell all your girlfriends about it. Ladies love men in red, and we'll see you guys later. Peace.